welcome to this morning, this day, and this opportunity to be together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. TJUC, this Unitarian Universalist congregation, is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we've figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another. I'm Deborah Navgardoff, a member of the Board of Trustees. I have several announcements today. TJ members are invited to nominate organizations for our Share the Plate during September and then vote for their top 6 choices of all nominated organizations during the October 18th congregational meeting. So put that one on your calendars, please. The Share the Plate program will take place once a month throughout 2021. More information is in the September newsletter. The Settled Minister Search Committee is hosting its final small group discussion Zoom meeting this Thursday, September 17th at 7 p.m. The committee invites all TJ members who weren't able to participate in one of the earlier meetings to join us and share your thoughts and ideas about our future settled minister. You'll find information about the meeting, including the Zoom link, on the TJ website under Latest News and Events. Please contact the Search Committee Chair, Rick McShane, if you have any questions. Coffee chats continue Monday through Thursday from 9 to 9:30 and happy hour on Fridays at 5. The links are on our website. Join us. We're really enjoying the connections we're making by being together in this way. This Wednesday, our special guest will be Valerie Magnuson with Green Streets, who will talk about Louisville's Green Street Gardens. If we have any visitors today, we'd love to get to know you. Please talk to our Congregational Life Coordinator, Janet Taylor, to receive our newsletter and email updates. And join us after the worship service today for coffee and conversation. You bring your own coffee and we'll break you into small groups to talk about the service or any other topic. Today's service is brought to you by our International Justice Committee and a grant from our endowment. We've been in conversation with Heather Vickery since January 2019 to plan this service, and I'd like to give a special thanks to Arlene Tuttle, who's worked on this service. We'd so hope to have Heather join us in person, but we are delighted she's here today by Zoom. Heather and the International Justice Committee will follow this service up with a special Zoom dialogue this coming Thursday, September 17th at 3 p.m. All are invited. Watch for the Zoom link in the weekly newsletter and on the website. Let us now move into worship, willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and opening to connection in all its forms. We open with the song Bread and Roses, which was a political slogan as well as the name of a poem and a song. It originated from a speech given by American women's suffrage activist Helen Todd. A line in that speech about bread for all and roses too inspired the poem Bread and Roses by James Oppenheim. This was set to music by Nini Farina and is sung today by musician and songwriter Don Landis.
For this next song, Bread and Roses, please follow along with us. There's the lyrics beside the video. It'd be great if you could sing from home. Here's a throwback to 1912. As we go marching, marching in the beauty of the day, 1,000,000 darkened kitchens, 1,000 new lofts gray are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we go marching, marching, we battle to for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Our life shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we go marching, marching, unnumbered women dead go crying through
opening words today are from Elizabeth Strong. Today, we celebrate a dream awakening. Today, we worship with renewed hope in our hearts. Today, we act on an audacity of hopes and dreams for the future. Today, we begin the hard work of justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. For today is a day like no other, and it is ours to shape with vision and action. Let us worship together and celebrate today.
And I will be reading our chalice lighting for this morning, and Dawn, thankfully, is going to light the chalice as I read. And this is A Spark of Hope by Melanie Davis. If ever there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice.
It is so good to be together in this way, even though we must remain at a distance. And I've brought something with me today. It's a flashlight. I won't shine it at you because that would be nasty. Flashlights help us to shine light into the darkness so that we can see better. The flashlight might also symbolize the light of truth and the light in each of us as we work for justice in the world. And so this morning, I'd like to share some of the story of how the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, came to be. And what I'm about to share with you was adapted from the history Righteous Among the Nations found in the Unitarian Universalist Tapestry of Faith curriculum, Faith Like a River, and the work of Reverend Laura Randall. This is the story of Waitstill and Martha Sharp. And these may be unfamiliar names to even the most dedicated students of UU history, but the Sharps should be considered among the inspiring heroes of the Second World War. So let me take you back in time to the night of March 14th, 1939. Working late into the night, Waitstill and Martha Sharp burned all of their notes and papers. You see, it was vital that no records remained of all the refugees they smuggled out of Nazi-occupied Europe. For their own safety and that of all the people they saved, nothing could be written down, and time was running out. What had begun as a seemingly simple church mission had turned into a desperate and dangerous situation. What led to this moment, you may be wondering? In 1938, an agreement called the Munich Pact gave the border regions of Czechoslovakia to the Nazis in exchange for the promise of peace. Hundreds of refugees fled to the Unitarian Church in Prague as Jews, intellectuals, political dissidents, and others targeted by the Nazis desperately sought safety. The American Unitarian Association asked Waitstill Sharp to go to Czechoslovakia and coordinate relief work there. The Sharps left for Europe in February of 1939, leaving their two young children in the care of close friends from their congregation. So just imagine how hard it might have been for them to leave behind their children, not knowing what they were walking into and not knowing how long they might be away. So when the Sharps accepted this mission, they had truly no idea what lay ahead. At first, their work involved setting up a network of volunteers to obtain visas and passage and education and employment for refugees. But the situation for the refugees rapidly deteriorated. When it became clear that the Nazis were approaching the city of Prague, the Sharps burned all their records and vowed to continue their life-saving work rather than returning to the safety of home. The very next day, the Nazis marched into Prague. On that day, Martha Sharp helped a top resistance leader to asylum at the British Embassy. They were stopped 3 times by Nazi guards, and each time Martha used her American passport to get them safely through the checkpoints. A few days later, Reverend Sharp arranged for a member of the Czech parliament to be smuggled from a hospital by hiding him in a body bag. They had to be very creative. The Gestapo, which were of course the Nazi police, would not allow the work of people like the Sharps to continue. Their office was closed, and all the Sharps' remaining belongings were thrown into the street. Still, the Sharps stayed on. In August, Reverend Sharp attended a conference in Switzerland and was not allowed to return to occupied Czechoslovakia, which left Martha in a terrible position, under threat of arrest by the Gestapo. She had no choice but to flee Prague alone. And finally, Martha and Waitstill were reunited in Paris and sailed for home. And then in May of 1940, Frederick May Elliott, who was then the president of the American Unitarian Association, asked the Sharps if they would return to Europe as the representatives of a new organization called the Unitarian Service Committee. With much of Europe now under Nazi occupation, the Sharps continued their work to get people to safety, often at great personal peril. Ultimately, the Sharps and others at the Unitarian Service Committee helped more than 2,000 people escape from Nazi persecution. Let that sink in. They did not do this life-saving work alone, just as we don't do our life-saving work alone today. They had the support of Unitarians across the United States, as well as in other humanitarian agencies working in Europe. The Unitarian Service Committee became the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, often abbreviated to UUSC. And UUSC continues to honor the courage, compassion, and commitment of the Sharps to this day by working to advance human rights and challenge oppressive policies around the world, including in our own country. Martha and Waitstill Sharp never saw themselves as extraordinary. They simply believed that good people need to stand up for what is good in the world, and that each of us should try to make a difference for the better in the world around us. And through their lived example, Waitstill and Martha Sharp remind us that confronting oppression and persecution wherever and whenever it appears is more than the words of our 6th principle, which calls upon all Unitarian Universalists to affirm the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. It is a moral imperative requiring direct action by all individuals, no matter what our ages, as well as nations. I can't think of a more important message to carry from the Sharps world to ours today. And I hope that this message will help you shine a light into the darkness of oppression that persists in our world.
One of the ways that we bring our community to life is through the sharing of the joys and sorrows of our lives, sharing those events and milestones in the cycle of life that when we bring them and share them with each other, we deepen our connection to one another and to this community. And this sort of sharing is particularly important during the time of pandemic when we're not able to be with one another in person. Each week, we invite you to email your joys and sorrows to Reverend Kathy to be shared in the service. These are the joys and sorrows that were shared this week. Nisha Yenawayne has struggled with various medical issues, but the main one has been seizures. Due to increased seizures in the past few months, Nisha has had to be seen by a neurologist and may have to undergo brain surgery, though no final decision has been made yet. We hold Nisha in our thoughts and in our prayers. Sandy Reese fell in the shower and had to undergo a partial hip replacement surgery. Dick is now quarantined at Magnolia Springs after accompanying Sandy to the hospital. He is being watched by his doctors for potential issues with a broken vertebra that could require surgery if things worsen. Neither Dick nor Sandy can have any visitors. Daughter Susan is restarting the Caring Bridge page as a way to update friends on progress. In the meantime, phone calls and cards are our best way to express support. We definitely hold Dick and Sandy in our hearts as well. Linda Gus reported a phenomenally good CT scan and laparoscopy results, which shows a robust reaction to chemo for her cancer. This is very welcome news. The current plan is to surgically remove the primary tumor in 90 days or so if the good news holds up, which is not something they were even able to consider previously. Congratulations, Linda. We're so happy for you. And we hold in our thoughts and prayers the people on the West Coast and the tremendous devastation that they're dealing with right now. And we also hold in our hearts the people who have suffered and continue to do so during this time of pandemic. Let us take a moment now in the silence of our hearts to join in the spirit of prayer or meditation in whatever way feels right to you. Holding these joys and sorrows and the unspoken joys and sorrows that we know are in our hearts. Let us hold all of this in our thoughts and prayers in a moment of gathered silence.
We join now together in support of our church community. While our church remains closed to large in-person gatherings, the work of our church goes on, and we depend on your generous contributions to do that work. You can still make those contributions, even though we must remain at a distance from each other. You can mail them in, and you can also donate online through our website. We thank you so much for your generosity.
Hello everyone, it's Dawn Landis and Creighton Irons, and we hope that you will join us in singing this next one. This is hymn number 131 in your hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. Love will guide us through the hard night.
I am very excited to introduce to you today our speaker, Heather Vickery. Heather is the coordinator for congregational activism for the UU Service Committee and the UU College of Social Justice. So the UUSC and the UUCSJ, if you prefer acronyms. Heather works with congregations to do their justice work more effectively and faithfully while connecting with other folks in the UU universe, like state action networks and UUA regional staff. She is the treasurer of the newly incorporated Beyond Bond and Legal Defense Fund, and an active member of the Boston Immigration Justice Accompaniment Network, also known as Beyond. This is also Heather's last of 4 years serving as the president of the board of the First Parish in Malden. In her spare time, Heather enjoys working on her house, gardening, cooking, and foraging. Heather, welcome.
Thank you so much, Dawn, and thank you everyone for being here. I'm so happy to be joining you all virtually today. I wish I was there in person as we had talked about, but someday I will be there with you all, hopefully in person. And for now, we have Zoom. So with that, actually, I want to go through some tech things so we can engage through Zoom a little bit, because I tend to be very mobile when I preach, and I like to see folks engaging. And so I just want to give us some ways to sort of interact with each other while I'm talking with you. So for those of you who signed on today with a computer or a tablet, please use your mouse or trackpad or screen to circle your cursor around the screen. For those of you on the phone, if you want, you can just kind of circle your phone around for fun. As you're doing that, you should be able to see in the upper right or left corner, depending on whether you're on a computer or tablet, a box. If you scroll over that and click on it, you should be able to go to full screen. So if you're anything like me, you have between 5 and 30 tabs open right now on your browser. And so there's a lot of like temptations that can draw us away from being together. And so if we go to full screen, we can kind of focus on each other a little better. Second, I'll have you again move that cursor or phone around in a circle. While you're doing this, you should see in the upper right or left corner of your screen a button that either says gallery view or speaker view, or looks like 9 little boxes together. It's right next to what you clicked for the full screen. This is to allow you to either just look at me if you're in speaker view, or to look at everyone in gallery view. Please feel free to switch between those as the Spirit calls you. I know sometimes I just want to see everyone's amazing faces. And sometimes we want to focus on the person speaking. It's totally okay to do either of those. I am actually going to switch to gallery view because I like to see how people are kind of engaging with what I'm saying, and I just miss that about being in person. So, but feel free to do whatever works for you. And finally, going back to those circles, you should see at the bottom of your screen a bar with a few buttons. One of them looks like a word bubble, and I know a lot of you already know how to do this. It says chat below it. Please click on that and open the chat box. Once you've done that, say hi, let me know you're there if you can, and you're so called to. Please use this through the service. If you have an issue, I think that our IT Ninja can help you with that. You can also comment on what I'm saying if you'd like, add thoughts you're having, etc. I know you wouldn't normally do this during a sermon, right? You're not normally going to turn to someone and be like, and start talking in the middle, but I love it when people engage with it. And because we're not, in the same space, having that option of a chat is such a blessing. So please feel free to do so. For those of you on the phone, if there is anyone on the phone, there's so many people, I don't even know if there are folks on the phone. You can actually use *9 to raise your hand. It's gonna look like this on your screen if you can see me. If not, it lets us know that you are interacting with us. So you can go ahead and do that if you'd like to interact. And if I ask people to raise their hand or I ask a yes/no question, you can kind of do that as we go through. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to ask you a question. So using the chat box or the raise hand function, or if you're on video, you can just kind of do one of these and actually raise your hand. How many of you are disturbed by the state of our country and the world right now? Yeah, can I do like, if I had like 5 hands, I think maybe that's what I would be doing, right? Yeah, we're in a little bit of a, we have some concerns, right? There's some concerns. We might be going in the wrong direction when it comes to human rights, right? Not just in this country, but across the world, right? We have rising nationalism, fascism. We can't even keep track of all of the things that are concerning at this point. And so as we heard earlier, as Barb said, at the time of UUSC's founding, when it was officially known as the Unitarian Service Committee, the world gave few signs of moving in a better direction as well, right? We were in a similar spot. We had Hitler's Germany dragging all of Europe into war and laying the groundwork for the Holocaust. Thousands of refugees were already displaced from their homes and forced to flee religious and political persecution wherever the Nazis took power. It eventually spread into, across the globe. And as Barb said, UUSCs, I always try to put the extra U in there, their early work in Prague involved helping refugees apply for visas and process the other paperwork they would need to seek safety abroad, which doesn't sound sexy usually, right? It's like, oh, they were processing paperwork. But sometimes that's what you need to do, right? Sometimes that's the thing. And following the same model of partnership we still adopt today, many of the service committee's first employees were actually Jewish refugees working to protect the rights of their community. At the time, Jewish people in Prague were already facing persecution under the Nazi occupation, and all the warning signs of the coming genocide were already in place. They therefore knew the risks they took by staying in the city to help others. Nevertheless, they did stay. And unfortunately, none of those staff members were able to emigrate or avoid deportation to concentration camps. But they got many of their people out of danger. In the face of genocide, religious persecution, political murder, and all the worst atrocities the human imagination has ever devised, it was an act of indescribable courage for all those who worked in Europe and those that supported their work to not only hope for a different world, but to take action as well to get there. And really, that is what our faith, your faith, Unitarian Universalism, is. It's about having the courage to imagine a better world, a beloved community, even in the face of fascism, racism, xenophobia, and all the other evils we see in the world. We imagine that better world, and then we take action. We imagine a world where the inherent worth and dignity of every person is actually honored. We imagine a world where there is justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. We imagine a world where we accept each other and encourage each other's spiritual growth. We imagine a world where all have access to a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We imagine a world where the right of conscience is respected and the democratic process is used in society at large. We imagine a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. We imagine a world where all respect the interdependent web of all existence. And though it's not one of our official principles yet, I believe we do imagine a diverse, multicultural, beloved community where we have dismantled racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. that is the core of our faith. It's not about a belief of what happened in the past. It's a belief in what we can be in the future. And at UUSC, you can clearly see not only our faith's guiding principles in the work we do, but you can also see our institution's history. We focus on 3 areas of work that reflect what was happening during World War II as well. People moving in the face of crisis. We work with partners and in the US and internationally on the Central American migration crisis, addressing the 3 main issues of that crisis. The right to stay at home, which requires working against government corruption and violence, mostly in the Northern Triangle. The right to migrate, which addresses the needs and rights of people as they travel through Mexico. And the right to asylum, which supports efforts on the border and throughout the country to allow people to apply for and gain asylum in the US. We work with Indigenous communities across the world and in the US that are facing climate-forced displacement and environmental injustice by supporting their self-determination in their movements and pathways to corrective justice. And finally, we work on crisis response when the natural and human-made disasters hit Indigenous communities, communities of color, and other oppressed peoples. A prime example of this is our longstanding work with the Rohingya people of Burma, who have been facing a genocide by the Burmese military and government for years. Now, this is when I'm going to ask for some more participation here. Let me know in the chat if you have taken any action that would fit into those 3 buckets in the last year. Have you donated to an organization, whether it's UUSC or not? Have you written your representatives? Have you gone to a protest? Any of these? What has this church done? Liz, if you can, I saw your hand raise. You can also just hand raise if you don't want to share in the chat, but yeah, let me see y'all. Yes, all 3, I think, says Wallace. Dawn says, I've been donating, contacting representatives, going to protests, amazing. Heather Reynolds, good name, has gone to protests and donated food to Black Lives Matter, amazing. Donated to Parents for Social Justice, awesome. So you're already supporting this work, right? The Bail Project from Ellen, amazing. Attending Stand Up to Racism events, fantastic. Now, a lot of the times, I think what people most know about UUSC is our Central American migration work. And the other 2 tend to be a little less known. But had anyone heard of our Burma work before this? If you can just kind of do one of these guys in the video. Awesome. If you want to learn more about this work, I do encourage you to come on Thursday and hear a little bit more in depth about the work that we're doing. I'm so excited to have you all participating in our international work even more. You're already doing amazing work. I'm seeing that in the chat, which is great. But we'd love to have you join us and learn more about UUSC's work as well. So again, imagining a better world is at the core of who we are as a faith community. But we don't just imagine and despair. We don't just imagine to escape. We imagine that world, and as we can see in the chat, we take action. You take action. It has been 80 years since the Unitarians recognized the signs of the upcoming Holocaust and decided to act by sending Martha and Waitstill Sharp to Europe. And now, many of those signs can be seen again in our own country and around the world. And some signs have been there all along, but we're just now waking up to them as a society. This time is critical. It's critical for us. It's critical for our partners. We need your help. We need the help of our entire faith again. We need your help to do everything we can to stop the world from going back to those extreme dark times. We cannot go as far as we did in World War II. We cannot wait. We need to stop those dark times, and we need to move the world closer to our beloved community. So that's why I'm asking each of you to commit to doing at least one of 3 things to support UUSC today. First, you could donate $150 and your gift will qualify for a match from the Shelter Rock congregation in New York. So that means if you donate $150, you're actually giving $300 to UUSC to support our work. Second, you could become a sustainer by starting a monthly gift to UUSC of any amount, but fun fact, $7 a month will get you over $80 in honor of our 80-year history. And my colleague Laura Randall is putting some of this information in the chat, and she actually is going to put the unique link that we've created for you all so we know it's coming from you, and TJUC can get the credit. And third, we know that not everyone can give money, right? We know that. And money is not the only thing. In fact, it's not always the most important thing. We'd like to ask all of you to sign up for our newsletter so you can keep up with our work and respond to the many other calls to action we send out to support the work and the humanity of our partners, and to learn about the educational opportunities we have for you and your church. We know that there is going to be a lot of work in the coming months and years. We need to be pressuring our elected officials to do the right thing. We need people of all different skills and abilities. We need all your gifts. Sometimes the gift is money. Sometimes it's someone who can protest. Sometimes it's writing a letter. Sometimes it's doing things in the background, right? Volunteering, educating yourselves so you can speak to your family. All of these things are going to be needed, and all of them are just as important as anything else. So again, my colleague Laura Randall, thank you so much for being here, has put in that special link. Please do donate. You can also sign up on the UUSC website. No matter how you support UUSC, whether it's financially or taking action with us in some other way, if it's following us on social media. I know everyone loves social media. I'm doing that because I'm never on social media. Know that UUSC is part of your faith, and it is your service committee. So I want to thank you all for being here with me today, for inviting me here, for the work you do for justice in your community and in this country and in the world, and for who you are as a people of faith. Together, let's imagine a better world, a beloved community, and with our actions, may it be so. Amen.
Thank you so much, Heather. Our closing words today are from Robin Gray. As we prepare to depart, we give voice to these hopes. May we know ourselves bound in community even while we are apart. May a passion for justice burn in our lives. May we carry the light of compassion in our hearts and in every interaction. May we be whole in our devotion to truth and always carry the lamp of peace before us.
And we can extinguish our chalice. I don't know if you have regular words, but in my church, we say, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. Oh my goodness, I have this memorized usually.
The lamp of community.
The community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again. Thank you all.
Here's a song of mine called Keep On Moving. Each verse is a story of a real person who felt compelled enough, moved enough by their ideals to walk, to move. Keep on moving, keep on